Cybersix is an action animated series based on the Argentinian comic of the same name. The series was produced in Canada and animated overseas in Japan. The series itself focuses on Cybersix, a genetically engineered superhuman. After narrowly escaping death from her former creator, she takes refuge in a small city where she disguises herself with a false identity as a male high school teacher, named Adrian during the day, while at night she wears a black leather outfit as a woman and fights crime. We follow her on her daily life, taking out Monster of the Week villains as reoccurring villains Von Riker and his son Jose try to defeat Cybersix from messing with their plans to take over the world. Von Riker is one of the main villains of the series and the creator of Cybersix herself. He's a mad scientist that makes abundant amount of creations in his labs and wants to take over the world with them. The other main villain of the show, Jose, the son of Von Riker. Jose is a young boy hell-bent on taking over the city and defeating Cybersix for good. Also, he's very short-tempered and selfish, and his plans pretty much never work out in the end thanks to Cybersix most of the time. Other recurring characters include Lucas, a biology teacher in the same high school as Cybersix's alter ego, and also the love interest of Cybersix. He aids Cybersix a lot in defeating the plans of Riker and Jose. Another is Data 7, formerly known as Cyber 29, is a Black Panther and also Cybersix's brother. Before being a Black Panther, Data 7 was a human boy, but died after falling off a mountain. After being found by Von Riker, his brain was put into the body of a Black Panther, and fought against Cybersix, eventually rebelling against Von Riker, and helped Cybersix in defeating him. There are also Lori and Julian. Lori is a high school student that has a crush on Cybersix's alter ego, Adrian. She starts the series pretty cold to most people with the exception of Adrian. She opens up more and becomes more or less an ally to Cybersix and Data 7. Julian is a young boy who's first seen as a thief working for a bunch of hooligans. He decides he doesn't want to be part of it anymore, but gets chased down because of it, and is soon rescued by Cybersix. She helps him out in stopping thieving, and throughout the rest of the series, he helps her out on various missions. I think the show overall is pretty great. Even though it only had 13 episodes, there was a lot shown. With some pretty great and compelling characters and villains, it was like a different take on Batman. What with its mature themes and sort of noir thriller and kind of horror take on the superhero genre, and I definitely recommend it to anyone to at least check it out. Whether it's something you watched as a child or watching it for the first time as an adult, it's definitely something I recommend, and it definitely still holds up from when I saw it as a child. The series aired on Teletoon in Canada and Fox Kids in the United States in 1999. Being a Canadian myself, I got to see the show in its entirety, but in the US, being aired on Fox Kids meant there was a lot of edits with the show. Now, it's nothing new that Fox Kids heavily edited shows for the appropriation of North America, as they would want it to be. Its runtime was mainly cut just to add more commercials. For example, the opening itself was cut from 60 seconds to only 30 seconds, which is honestly quite criminal because that opening theme is top tier. They also removed a lot of violent scenes and sped up some clips in various episodes. Around 5 minutes each were taken from each episode, and making it about 18 minutes each. To be honest, slashing the stuff was probably the cruelest thing they could have done to the series, involving it to flop in the US. Also, if they knew they had to cut the show like this, then they probably shouldn't have picked it up in the first place, and it probably would have done better airing on something like Adult Swim or something close to that. Now, Fox Kids also contributed to the part of the series' lost media, because outside the initial airings, some of the Fox Kids edited episodes can't be found to this day. Unless you got a VHS recording of it when it first aired, I don't think it could be found anywhere else. If you're wondering which episodes have been found already and which ones are still lost, you can look it up on the Lost Media wiki page. Other lost media attached to this show is supposedly that there's a full version of the opening theme itself and hasn't been shown to the public. Supposedly the full opening ranges around 2 to 3 minutes. The last of the lost media doesn't have much to do with the animated series, except it being a live-action series. It actually predated the animated show by a few years, and it was cancelled after one season due to low ratings, and was taken off the air entirely. With the exception of the first episode, all episodes are lost. Hopefully one day they'll be found, although from what I've seen from the live-action show, I think it's best to keep it lost.
Este miércoles a las 9 de la noche por Telefe.
Going back to the animated series, I think just because the show was only 13 episodes does not mean it struggled to get its footing at all. In fact, I only think it takes an episode or two to get itself settled, and to know which each episode would provide. And I think it's pretty good for a cartoon that no one had any prior knowledge unless you read the comics, which would have been hard because there's still no official English translation of it. Like I mentioned earlier, the comic the show is based on originates in Argentina, and the official translations are only in Spanish for Argentina and Spain, as well as French and Italian. But there does live a fan English dub which you can find online, but I don't think it was ever finished. So it seemed odd that they'd make a show for North American audiences, and I guess if it was more successful, they would have made an official dub. Although, from what I've read, the comic is much darker and has much more mature themes like nudity and such. So yeah, they cut a lot back when making this series. But overall, it's still pretty dark and what was essentially aimed for kids. The show only lasting 13 episodes was a real shame, but I think they definitely saw it coming from the beginning. Each episode cost approximately $360,000 each, and having it animated by a Japanese company will definitely increase that price. But I think it was worth it because the show looks pretty damn good for something that aired in '99. The only thing I have a problem with is some of the designs of the characters, specifically the way the hair is drawn. On some of the characters it can look really nice, but on others it's got a weird blocky look, and it could work on some characters, like for the arm hair, but when it's on their heads it just looks weird to me, though they are staying true to the comic designs. Overall, the series as a whole, I personally think it's great. It gets you engaged into the story so easily and in such a short amount of time. It's sad that there wasn't more of this, but maybe someday we can get a continuation or a reboot. But until then, I'll keep enjoying what we have, and I definitely recommend you give it a watch.